Hello everyone and welcome to my nerdy little corner of the internet. If you are watching this, you might be participating in a starter deck challenge. In a starter deck challenge, you are either given a random starter deck or you may even get to choose your starter deck. Once you have one, you can open it up, open the pack inside, and use it to upgrade your deck. Keep in mind that your deck will still need to be 2 inks and 60 card minimum. This video is an in-depth look at the Emerald Ruby starter deck, starring Cruella Miserable as Usual and Aladdin Heroic Outlaw. The Emerald Ruby deck is the control deck of the three, grinding out the opponent of resources and finishing off the opponent with late game power. Megara, pulling the strings, Vicious Betrayal, He's Got a Sword, and Stolen Scimitar is your power buff package, allowing your cheaper characters to trade up against more expensive characters. Cruella de Vil, Miserable as Usual, and Mother Knows Best is your bounce package, shifting the tempo of your opponent and keeping them off balance until the late game. Jasper, Common Crook, and Iago, Loudmouth Parrot, is your no quest package, keeping your opponent from gaining lore and slowing the game down even further. Peter Pan, Never Landing, and Pongo, Ol' Rascal, is your evasive package, gaining lore that your opponent will have a hard time taking care of as you take out their resources. Aladdin Street Rat, Rapunzel, Letting Down Her Hair, Aladdin Heroic Outlaw, and Steal from the Rich is your lore steal package, further slowing down your opponent as they try to win before the endgame. LeFou, Instigator, and Shield of Virtue is your ready up package, allowing your characters to challenge twice or quest and be safe, or in the case of Iago, activate their abilities in additional time. Stampede and Dragonfire is your removal package. With cheap characters and your no quest package, your opponent's characters will have damage counters on them or Stampede, and Dragonfire is brutal removal against anything without ward. The deck is strong, having some great haymakers in the late game with a suite of removal, lore stealing, and large bodies that generate lore. It also has a good evasive package with Peter Pan and Pongo that other decks will have a problem taking care of. The downside is that there are a ton of uninkable cards in the deck. A fifth of your deck is uninkable, and the majority of them cost 5 or 6, so they will be stuck in your hand. It's also harder to pilot, as the deck is designed to have small advantages in the early game to make it to the late game, and newer players tend to have a harder time seeing the optimal route. Another downside is that this has the weakest card draw of the 3 starters, with the only draw card being Mad Hatter, and it's more of a deterrent to challenge him than actual card draw. If you are looking at your pack for upgrades, you want some evasives like Tinkerbell Most Helpful, Goofy Daredevil, even Tigger Wonderful Thing, as they make you even more dangerous as you now have more characters with lore that are difficult to take out. Gathering more cards that make your opponent reckless or can't quest, such as John Silver, Alien Pirate, or Mother Gothel, Selfish Manipulator, will help solidify that the game is going to be slow and will enter the late game on your terms. Another set of cards to keep an eye out for are the ones with high lore counts, such as Hans, Scheming Prince, and Cusco, Temperamental Emperor. These cards will add much more pressure at the cost of 1 card, and that is the kind of value this deck wants. There are a collection of cards one shouldn't add to the deck when looking at your pack. It doesn't mean these cards are bad, it is simply that these cards are not good additions to this specific deck or to the starter deck format. Sword of Truth should not be added, as there aren't enough villains throughout the 3 starter decks to warrant an uninkable card with this ability. Moana, Chosen by the Ocean, is another card that doesn't really work in this, as someone else would have to open a Taka in their pack and decide to play it. You have enough Stolen Scimitars, Vicious Betrayals, Stampedes, and He's Got a Sword in your deck, so you should avoid adding more. You should definitely also avoid adding more uninkables. Keep it at 12, or even make it less if you can. That is one big weakness about this deck, is that you can't really add more uninkables without taking out ones that are already there. The first cards I would remove from this deck is He's Got a Sword. You have a better card in Vicious Betrayal in the deck already, and honestly, I think the deck has far too many power pumpers as opposed to actual targets for the pumping. I would also consider taking out Steal from the Rich, as you are rarely stealing more than 3 lore from your opponent, and the Aladdins and Rapunzels will do enough to slow down your opponent without there being a dead card in your hand for the majority of the game. When looking at your opening hand for this deck, keep as much Inkables as possible. Dragonfire and Mother Knows Best are really the only uninkables worth keeping in the opening hand the majority of the time. The rest can be altered and be drawn into later. Keep the evasive characters in your hand, as those are cards that will inflict pressure on your opponent to develop their board and make targets for your removal. When playing against the Amber Amethyst deck, you need to keep the board empty. Prioritize an empty curve and offer trades early, and then become the aggressor in the mid game with Evasives and Mad Hatter. When playing against Emerald Ruby, prioritize tempo. Playing your early plays to get a small lore advantage, and then just keeping that board state on your side as both of you trade and remove each other's threats and removing each other's lore. Prepare for a slog with this mirror match. When playing against Sapphire Steel, save your removal for their big characters and prioritize your lore getters. Your Mad Hatters are excellent in this matchup. That is my guide to the Emerald Ruby starter deck. If you like this video, check out the other 2 videos where I look at the other 2 decks, and make sure you Rafiki rush that subscribe button. Good luck out there.